Good morning, friends. Robin here from Cheese from Scratch, and in today's video I'm going to be opening up a few cheeses from my cheese cave. We're specifically going to be looking at some natural rind cheeses, and I'm also going to be showing you how I clean up a cheese that I didn't really want to form a natural rind. I wanted it to vacuum seal, and so I'm going to be showing you how I clean that up. We're going to be taste testing a few cheeses, and I'm excited to open these up for you guys and just show you what's good, what's bad, what I would do differently, all of that kind of stuff. Alright, so life on the homestead is often pretty busy, and sometimes I forget to look at the cheeses that I have in the cheese cave. You know, I have the best intentions of looking in at them every couple days, but honestly, sometimes that just doesn't happen, and things kind of get away at me. That's definitely what happened with this Gouda that I made on March 1st, so now today is March 15th, I believe. So I made this cheese 15 days ago. I had put it into the cheese cave to just dry, because I have changed to drying most of my cheeses now in the cheese cave. But I had put it into the cheese cave to dry, and I had planned on just letting it dry for about 5 days, usually is all it takes, and then vacuum sealing it, and then putting it back into the cheese cave. So forgot about it, didn't come back. I probably came back for the first couple days and, you know, flipped it here and there, but didn't come back as much as I should have, did not come back to vacuum seal it. And so now I'm looking at a cheese that does have some mold growth on it. It doesn't concern me though, because it's just really not a lot of mold growth. And I will show you a cheese later on, actually the one that I showed in the intro there. That is a cheese that you just let the mold grow. So I have really expanded my comfort level with mold growth on cheese making in the last couple years. I would say that 10 years ago when I started making cheese, I was absolutely uncomfortable with mold growth on cheese. I would cut it off. I would, you know, do everything I could to not have mold growth. Now I don't sweat it. If I see a little bit of mold growth on my cheese, I'm either going to take care of it, clean it off, brush it down, or just embrace it and make cheeses with natural rinds that actually turn out really beautiful. So today I wanted to just wipe this cheese up and get it all cleaned up, because I do plan on just vacuum sealing it. I like to keep a lot of just mild cheeses in my cheese cave for my family. I've got 3 kids. They like to just eat cheese that tastes like it comes from the grocery store. And a lot of times natural rounded cheeses don't always taste that way. So I'm just going to be cleaning this cheese up today. Any mold that I'm seeing, I'm just wiping with a light salt and vinegar brine. So to make a salt and vinegar brine, you'd use about half a cup of vinegar and a tablespoon of salt, and you're just going to take a cloth. I prefer to use a cloth versus a paper towel, but today I used a paper towel. You're just going to take a clean cloth and you're just going to wipe down any of that mold, just give it a nice little wipe down, and then you can go ahead and vacuum seal it. So this is kind of a harsh treatment for the rind of a cheese, but because I'm vacuum sealing it and I'm not planning on having any sort of natural rind come onto this cheese, I'm completely fine with using this method. And it's very effective if you just have kind of some light brushable mold growth. You can see I really don't have a lot of mold growth on there. This method is going to work really well for you. Another great thing to do with this is if you have a toothbrush and if there's kind of like crevices in your cheese, if your rind is not super smooth, you can take a clean toothbrush, and I keep one just for cheese making, and you can just brush some of this salt vinegar brine into there as well and just brush away that mold. So just getting it nice and clean. This is quite a mild case of mold growth as far as mold growth goes. So I'm just going to get it nice and clean, and then I'm going to go ahead and vacuum seal it. Now, vacuum sealing cheese is a really good option if you want to deal with virtually no mold growth. Occasionally you will get a little mold growth under the vacuum seal package, but not very much at all. So I have a whole video, I will link it down below, on how to vacuum seal cheeses, because there is a few considerations to go with it. But this is a really good option for if you're kind of new to cheese making and you just don't want to have to deal with the mold growth. Vacuum sealing is going to be a really great way for you to do that. It also makes it so that you you don't have to worry about controlling humidity in your aging area. So all you need is a temperature controlled aging area, or cheese cave. So an area that runs between 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I will also link my cheese cave video down below of how I set up my refrigerator to be a cheese cave. But anyways, in that cheese cave, you don't have to worry about controlling humidity if you have vacuum sealed your cheeses. So that is a big kind of win for you if you are just new to cheese making and it's just all feeling really overwhelming. Vacuum sealing is going to be a great way to go. Now, of course, vacuum sealing does kind of limit your cheese's possibilities. So you're not going to have, as diverse of cheeses. They're all kind of going to taste similar. So a Gouda and a Colby and a cheddar are all going to kind of taste similar when you vacuum seal them, but they're also all going to taste good. So that is a good takeaway to take from that. So when I label a cheese, I always make sure that I label what the cheese was, when I made it, what kind of culture I made it with. I'm making all of my cheeses with Clabber culture these days, which is a natural cheese making starter culture. Link that video down below as well. But I always label my culture on there, any kind of information about the cheese. So for example, that I had to wash this one off with a salt vinegar brine, I'm going to put that on there. And then I put the date that I sealed it on as well. And so I try to do this with all of my cheeses. I am sometimes not so great about labeling, and then I think I will remember, and then like a month or so down the road, I'm like, what the heck is this cheese? So I often forget that. Even this cheese, I had to kind of rake my brain to be like, what did I make? And why did I have this cheese in the cheese cave? So you always think you're going to remember, but you don't always. So making sure that you label is going to be really valuable in helping you to learn how to make better cheese. All right, so I apologize. My kids are playing laser tag in the background, so that's what that noise is. But anyways, they are having fun. So this cheese, you might be surprised to learn, is actually a Colby cheese. So the same Colby recipe that I make for my family, and I vacuum seal, and it's just like, this really nice mild cheese, I allow to make to grow a natural rind. And so this cheese I actually made, I think, about mid-February, but it could have been beginning of February. I did not take notes. But I have just really neglected this cheese. So I've probably flipped it maybe once or twice a week. I have brushed it once or twice a week, and the reason I was brushing it was just to kind of keep the rind a little bit slimmer. If you don't brush it, you just get this really thick rind, and I should have brushed it more. I would have got a less thick rind if I had brushed it a little bit more, but I'm kind of excited to open up this cheese and see what it tastes like and what it looks like inside. So I am still sort of new to natural aging cheeses. I've only been doing it for, I think, 2.5, 3 years at this point. Before that, I was really harsh with mold growth. If I saw mold growth on my cheese, I was pulling it off. But I have learned a lot in the last 3 years about naturally aging cheese, and I'm trying to learn more about it. Cheese making is a never-ending learning journey, and I still have a lot to learn, but I am excited to be experimenting and, embracing the mold a little bit more. So this cheese literally did nothing with it other than flipped it and brushed it once or twice a week. Colby cheese made with my regular Colby recipe. Now, these cheeses do tend to have a bit of a rind, and I don't like to eat the rind. Some people like to eat the rind, but I don't like to eat much of the rind, so I always cut it off. So the downside to making this type of cheese is that you're going to lose a lot of your cheese to rind. So you end up, with quite less volume to actually consume. But the benefit of this is that you can make some really neat cheeses. And I mentioned before that my family doesn't really like to have cheeses that are sharp or really, I don't know, really adventurous tasting. We just like cheeses that taste normal. I don't know how else. American normal. We don't want to have, anything too crazy. And so that is always kind of my goal when I'm naturally aging cheeses, is to make something that my family is still going to consume. And so I was not sure how this cheese would taste. I was excited to taste it, but it actually tasted super nice and mild. Tasted just like a Colby, but it had a natural skin. And so that's something really cool about it. Now, there is some things that I know about mold that I will kind of talk about here, is about the succession of mold that grows on your cheese rind, because that's really important in not having a really earthy, moldy taste in your cheese, is making sure that you're having a good succession of molds, because you're going to have kind of this stages of molds that happen. So I'm going to flip back to that other cheese, just some images of that other cheese to just show you some of the stages that happen when you are having mold growth. So you want to have a good succession of mold, meaning you want to have molds kind of come in order. So the first mold you're usually going to see on your cheeses is one like this white kind of mold that you can see that I'm wiping off. So that is like a yeasty white type of mold, and that's going to really set your rind up for a good kind of start to life. This is probably like a Geotrichium cadidium is my guess of what this type of mold is, but it could be a whole bunch of different white yeasts, but you want them to come first. And so if I was making a natural rind cheese, I would never wipe off the white yeasts. It's only in this vinegar brine one that I am wiping it off because I'm planning on vacuum sealing it and never having a natural rind on it. If I am going to have a natural rind on a cheese, I'm really diligent to let those white molds grow. I don't want to have anything that's disturbing them because they are going to protect the inside of my cheese from developing any bad flavors. The next molds that you're going to have grow are probably your blues. So you could actually see on this cheese that I was cleaning up that there was some blues and some kind of what do you call it, like mucor mold, like cat fur sort of mold. That was just because the humidity was a little bit too high in there, but some other molds were starting to grow. And because I had a good nice white surface on this cheese, that white yeasts were already grown, I wasn't so concerned about having these blue molds. So if I had seen that and I was planning on naturally aging that cheese, I would have just left it. And eventually the cheese is going to become quite covered with these blues and green molds, but they are going to kind of either, I don't know if they get died off or if they get consumed or what happens, but eventually a next succession will come along and you're going to get sort of this bright or this rich brownie color on your rind. So just making sure, the key takeaway is making sure that you get that nice white coat or white kind of skim on your cheese before other molds start to grow, and that is really going to help to develop your rind's flavor. Now sometimes if the environment is contaminated, for example if you have a lot of blues in there, it might contaminate your cheese a little bit earlier, or if the temperature of your cheese cave is a little bit too cool, you might notice that you start to get some blues and greens a little bit earlier before that white succession mold has really had a chance to kind of grow on the full rind of your cheese. And so I don't like that. I try to make sure that that doesn't happen. If I see molds growing before those white ones have a really chance to take hold, I'm going to remove them just by brushing or by a light salt wash. Would be how I would remove those, because if those blues grow before the whites grow, then you're going to have really bad tastes in your cheese from my experience. So just kind of this balance. But once that white coat has grown on your cheese, anything that comes after is kind of just, it's fine. You could just let it grow. You can keep the rind down by brushing it. If you don't want to have mold, you could obviously wash it off with like a salt brine. If you create a really salty environment on your cheese though, or if you create a really moist, I don't know actually, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, what is going to cause washed rind cheeses to get that kind of orangey smear, but there is something when you wash the cheeses frequently, when it's constantly this really moist environment on the surface of your cheese, you can get like a wash rind cheese, which is from B. linens is the type of bacteria that causes that kind of orange smear on there. So it's not a bad thing or anything, but you might not want your cheese to develop that. So just making sure if you are making a really wet, moist environment frequently, that is probably something that you will see. And wash rind cheeses, like one that I would think of right now would be like a raclette. Are made by, continually washing the surface of the cheese. It's pretty cool when you start to naturally age cheese. You start to kind of see how you can really just embrace all sorts of different ways of making one type of cheese. So I made a Colby, but I could take that Colby on so many different adventures. I could let it form a natural rind. I could vacuum seal it. I could wash it with something. And so you can just have this one cheese and you can take it so many different places during aging, which is super cool, but also super overwhelming when you are just learning how to make cheese.
Yeah,
Hey kids, you want to come taste this? Do you like it? What do you say it tastes like?
Mm. Cheese?
What kind of cheese?
Gouda?
Yeah, it kind of does taste like a Gouda. I made it like a Colby. So taste test for this cheese, we were actually super excited about it. It just tasted like a Colby. It didn't have anything, sharp about it or weird tasting. My husband, he's from Wisconsin. He's a Colby connoisseur. They make good Colby cheese there, and he really liked this cheese. So yeah, it's just interesting just experimenting. If you have the chance to experiment a little bit with natural rinds, it's interesting to do that. Now, I've definitely have made bad cheeses. There was one that I made not that long ago, actually. Oh, it was probably quite a few months ago now, and it was like a Gouda that I natural aged, and it got really soft inside, and it didn't taste that good. So the moisture was a little bit higher, I think, in it, and yeah, I was not a fan. But sometimes it works out, and this one worked out today, so that is really good. Now, I will say I want to show you here a little piece of the rind head, just because I had not flipped it enough. It had kind of sat in moisture, and I, for lack of a better word, it sort of rotted right in that section. So I'm just going to cut off that section, cut it a ways away from it, and I'm not really concerned about it. So there is a few softer spots on this rind, but nothing that I'm, worried about, I would say, at all. So now with this cheese, now that I have opened it, we want to consume it fairly quickly. I'm kind of in this stage of experimenting with when I open up a naturally rendered cheese and we're not going to consume it right away, should I leave the rind on when I vacuum seal it, or should I take the rind off when I vacuum seal? And so I'm going to show you a few cheeses that I have left the rind on, and I decided to leave the rind on this one today when I was vacuum sealing it. So we kept the one piece that I cut the rind off out, and then I vacuum sealed the other ones. But I made a note to myself that we wanted to consume those soon. As I said, Zach really kind of likes like a milder cheese, and he likes a young Colby. He doesn't like it to get really old and start to get like the crystals or anything like that. He doesn't want that. He wants it to be nice and mild, and I can get behind that. So we're gonna eat this cheese quite quickly. That's gonna be the first one that we eat in the cave. But anyways, I have been experimenting with leaving the rind off and taking the rind or leaving the rind on and taking the rind off is what I was trying to say. Now, I think that I am pro take the rind off before you vacuum seal. And I will show you one cheese here where I really wish I had taken the rind off, just because if you get any moisture in there, it doesn't bode well for the rind. If it's really a dry package, you're probably okay. But as the cheese continues to age in the fridge, if you're leaving it with the rind on in the fridge for an extended period of time, or in the cheese cave for an extended period of time, that cheese is going to continue to age. There's going to be continuing fermentation. There's going to be alcohol formation. Amino acids are going to get broken down. There's going to be all sorts of things happening in that bag, and I don't think I like the rind left on. Is my short answer there. So this was a naturally aged cheese that had just this really nice, beautiful dark brown rind when I put it into the vacuum seal bag. I think I vacuum sealed it about 6 months ago. I cut it in half and vacuum sealed it. It was a good cheese at that time. It's a very sharp cheese now. So I wish that I had taken the rind off. I think that maybe it contributed to a little bit of, I don't know what I would call it, slime in the bag. It's not a very nice, you can see it's kind of just falling off. So anyways, I wish I had taken the rind off of this cheese before I vacuum sealed it, but it's actually a really nice cheese. It's just super sharp, super, super sharp. And so it would be a nice cheese for, like grating into a salad or something like that. Can't actually remember what this cheese is. I think it's an Alpine. I'm pretty sure it's an Alpine that I naturally aged, and it would have looked very similar to that one that I just cut up when when it was about a month and a half, and then I let it even go farther until it got this really nice, rich brown succession sort of mold thing going on. And it was, yeah, really good when I put it into the bag, and it's still good, but it's super, super, super sharp. And you can see the color of it. It's just this really nice, dark brown. Nicely aged cheese, but it's kind of messy to clean up here. So, anyways, wish I had taken the rind off, but lesson learned. Still going to vacuum seal this cheese back up, and we're going to eat it quite quickly. I think I don't want to leave it too much longer. But yeah, anyways, so that is an example of a cheese where I left the rind on, and I wasn't super happy. All right, and then now I want to show you an example of one where I liked the rind left on. So this one is also probably about 6 months old, also an Alpine, a little bit smaller of a cheese. This one was fine with the rind on. It didn't make any kind of gross, smeary stuff on it. It was easy to kind of pull out and look at. There wasn't any moisture in the bag, and so I liked this one having the rind on. So I guess it definitely looks different now that it has had the rind on in the vacuum seal bag. It was a nice rich brown as well when I put it into the bag, but it also tastes really good. So, yeah, I don't know, but I think in the future, just for more consistency, I'm going to take the rind off before I put it in the bag, unless I'm planning on eating it quite quickly. Is my new consensus that I'm thinking that I'm going to do. I mean, obviously, it would be best to not put it into the vacuum bag at all. It would be best to just keep it in its nice little ripening container, and allow it to continue to natural age. But a lot of times, I'm opening a cheese up, and we're not going to eat the whole thing right away. So I'm vacuum sealing half of it for storage, and the other half for eating, or a quarter we're eating, or whatever it is. So yeah, that is how I store my cheeses if I do open them up, is that I do end up putting them into the vacuum seal. And it does work out. This cheese is really good. So, and the other one was fine as well. So it's just kind of a little thing that you can do to make it so that you can cut your cheeses open and not have to consume the whole thing right away. All right, so that concludes my video for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, like the video and subscribe. Come back next Monday because I post a new video every Monday, and I would love to have you guys back. And also a reminder that I have a new physical cheese making book coming out. Cheese from Scratch, Natural Cheese Making at Home is open for pre-orders right now. So you can find the link for that down below. I publish through a publishing company called Homestead Living that has published some really great books as well. So when you're there, take a browse around their website because they have some other awesome homesteading books as well. And yeah, that book is getting close to completion. I'm actually this weekend I am working on approving layouts for it, and then it's got to get indexed and it's going to print and should be in your hands. I think if you pre-order now, we had to push the print date back a little bit, but we're thinking probably about May for printing of the book, and then it will be going out. So yeah, so exciting. I can't believe that I wrote an actual physical book, and this is going to help you guys to learn how to make all sorts of different cheeses, as well as learn all sorts of different techniques, like how to use a clabber culture in your cheese making, how to natural age your cheeses if you want to, how to kind of learn to make cheese, but also learn to create kind of your own roadmaps for whatever you're doing on your homestead. So I'm really excited for this book to be in your guys' hands. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are awesome, and it's just amazing that I get to show my cheeses to you guys and just make cheese for a living, basically. So yeah, it's amazing. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next Monday. Okay, bye.